Breaking news is in as the Chicago Bulls are officially assigning Matas Buziles to the G League. We're going to be talking about what this means for Matas Buziles and what this means for the Chicago Bulls. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so we are jumping into the breaking news around the Chicago Bulls, and that is Matas Buziles is officially assigned to the Windy City Bulls. The Windy City Bulls are set to play on November the 8th, so that's this upcoming Friday. And so just reflecting a little bit more into this move, went ahead and got a chance to see what Billy Donovan had to say. If you want to check this out, the host of 670 to Score has this up on Twitter. And this is Billy Donovan talking about why Matas Buziles was sent down to the G League. And he's also talking about why he did not get minutes in that Brooklyn Nets game. And so let's start off with the top of this quote where Billy Donovan is saying that he thinks it's difficult to try to win games and then also to develop players. He's also talking about the importance of getting these players minutes. And then he goes into the Memphis Grizzlies game and he talks about how Matas Buziles had some chances at some rebounds on the offensive and the defensive end. He was unable to come up with those rebounds. He feels like that is something that Matas Buziles is absolutely going to get better at as he understands just how aggressive you need to be in NBA games. And then he also talks about how he was able to fit in during that run that was made in that Memphis Grizzlies game. He talks about how he likes to have veterans out there with Matas Buziles to help stabilize the unit, and that he got extended minutes because he was playing well. So he almost got pulled into it. That's what he's talking about. And so lastly, when Billy Donovan is talking about the decision here and not playing Matas Buziles, I found this pretty interesting because he's talking about three players now. So he's talking about Patrick Williams, he's talking about Julian Phillips, and he's talking about Matas Buziles. And he talks about the fact that, they're going to have to sacrifice something. And he feels like that Patrick Williams brings that physicality as a defender and that presence that the Chicago Bulls absolutely need. He talks about the fact that Matas Buziles is still trying to learn the NBA game. And he says that Julian Phillips has played very well. And he does not agree with putting Matas Buziles out there for 25 minutes just for him to learn on the fly. And he feels like with the G League, the Chicago Bulls are very much invested into Matas Buziles, into developing him. And he feels like at 19 years old, he's still got some ways to go. He's a terrific worker. He buys into what the team concept is. And he really feels like that Matas Buziles has to find an identity and be able to build off of that. And so now that we've gone through everything that Billy Donovan had to say, and paraphrase that, I just want to start with the top. And so I think that my thoughts are, I'm not sure that I like this long term. I understand the deal in moving Matas Buziles down to the G League, but this is where I had an issue with the Chicago Bulls before, and I think this is something that I worry about moving forward because he's talking about winning and then also trying to develop as well. And we knew coming into this season that this was going to be difficult because you have several players that essentially play the same position. You have players that you have question marks on. You have some players that you may or may not want to trade, who knows. But I'm worried that the Chicago Bulls, this front office AK, they may get too caught up in the right now, in winning right now. And I think that they're not looking at the long-term play here because yes, you want Matas Buziles to get G League minutes, but in order to find out if he can play against a Ben Simmons, against a Cam Thomas, against a Nick Claxton, Noah Clowney, like you need to actually throw him in the game. And so I know the Chicago Bulls lost last night. And I get it that, it wasn't just on one player. Defensively, I felt like we really had some breakdowns there. We did knock down some shots and we went away from Vooch. But I would have liked to just seen what Matas Buziles would have done in that game. You talk about experience, you talk about NBA minutes. I don't think by putting him out there in a game that is going to destroy his confidence. I think that Matas Buziles is a player I don't worry about when it comes to confidence. And I feel like if he's on the bench, if he's available, then if you want to play him for 5 or 6 minutes, so be it. But at least let's give him a chance and see what he can do. I understand that he has still got a ways to go. I totally get that. But let us not get caught up in just winning in right now for the long term, because look, Billy Donovan is going to really have to get into his coaching bag this year. And I've said this before, you're going to have to figure out ways to get these young players some minutes, because you cannot find out if they can handle guarding some of these elite NBA players in the G League. It just doesn't work like that. There's not enough practices like that. There's not enough G League experience like that. At some point, you have to give them live action. And I get that this is not the type of situation with the Chicago Bulls where you can play Matas Buziles 25 minutes and just roll with it like that. Like, this is not the Washington Wizards where Bub Carrington is able to go out there and play 25 minutes alongside of Alex R. Like, it's just not that type of team. And I understand that. But you do have to find a way to stagger these players in there, because if not, how are you going to continue to build this team and be a contender, or at least get out of the Eastern Conference at some point, if you don't know what they can and they cannot do? Because I think we can all agree that the Chicago Bulls are not going to make it out of the Eastern Conference this year. If they do qualify for the playoffs, and I'm talking about not a play-in situation, I think that is going to be an amazing season. And I feel like if they do get into a play-in situation, which is very realistic with the way that this team is playing, that's great. But in any of those scenarios, are we going to win an NBA championship? In any of those scenarios, have we picked a direction for this team? Like, this team still has to continue to build. It still needs to get better. It's still trying to build on the foundation. And so I don't want the Chicago Bulls to get caught in this win now situation. And so that's where I really get worried about the development and long term for Matas Buziles when you make this move, because he's going to go down there, and I think that he is going to definitely get the work in. He is going to be an impact for the Windy City Bulls, but I think at some point you need to put him out there, because you don't want to have the same questions that you're having this year for next year. And that means that you didn't take the time to throw him into these games and really, see what he could do. And that's the same thing for like Sanogo. And that's the same thing for Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, who they've really played well. And I think that they're going to continue to play well as you continue to give them the minutes. But the only way that we're going to see what these guys can do is you've got to put them out there. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this recent news and sending Matas Buziles down to the G League. Do you feel like, yes, this was a terrific move for the Chicago Bulls? This is a no-brainer. He has to go down there. This is the only way he's going to get better. Or do you feel like, look, you can send him down there, but you had better make sure that you get him up there and get him as much NBA minutes as possible, because ultimately he is part of your young core and you are still going to need to continue to build upon what you have this year. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments about this recent news with Matas Buziles. And so before we jump out of here, I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the content. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach a small goal of 5,000 subscribers before the end of the NBA season. Just want to let you know about 64.2% of you that watch are not subscribed. So make sure that you go ahead and slam dunk on that subscribe button for me. And look, even though the Chicago Bulls are caught in between a win now situation and developing players, and this is going to be something that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to make a hard pivot on one way or the other, I'm still saying go Bulls. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.